Safe Harbor program and a number of other programs where wineries and facilities that are already existing are allowed to promulgate more business there is a good thing. One of the things that we've got to be careful of is our natural resources. So I think in a beautiful location like this, much like the Legacy development, much like some of the other developments in Polk County, I think we need to continue to do whatever we can to promote economic development and business. Certain kinds of developments were meant for the cities and certain kinds for the rural parts. But a venue such as this one, Yost, is perfect, and this is the type of thing that I would continue to support once elected Polk County Commissioner. Thank you.
I love this question, Yost, because it's so open-ended. You get to talk about whatever you want, and I want to talk about a piece of legislation from last session that very few people know about or understand, and why it's important to a county like Polk County and statewide. I hope you understand that it was historic in your legislature last session in that the House, which has 60 members, was equally divided between Republicans and Democrats. The session before, the Democrats had a 36 majority, and that's how we got such jewels as Measure 67, and which I believe hurt Oregon businesses significantly. So when we were in equal numbers, we were able to stop some things that are going to matter. Over time, matter a lot. And my favorite example is Senate Bill 301, which was a bill that was supposed to give money to the state coffers by denying Oregon businesses part of the federal stimulus package around accelerated depreciation. Now, for those of you who don't buy and sell equipment, depreciation is one of those business things. But it matters a lot if you are a business that buys things for your business, be it tractors or manufacturing equipment, and you need to depreciate that equipment. And what they were really proposing was to take the money out of those businesses that we're going to use for depreciation and put it basically towards the state budget. We were able to stop that. We were able to say, no, the whole rest of the country and every other state is getting this stimulus to business benefit. We aren't going to deny it to Oregon businesses, be they in Polk County or Wheeler County or Multnomah County. It matters. And what it means is that my goal is to position not just Polk County, but all our counties to be better able to handle the current economy and be lifted out when things get better. Polk County is an export state. We've got great natural resources. This county is one of the breadbasket counties for the state. And we need to appreciate and we need to make sure the rest of the state understands how viable this county is. Thank you.
I am a practical business Republican who believes that most of our problems can be solved by common sense. I am a defender of EFU designation for farmland because I believe it helps preserve farmland for future agricultural uses, and we're going to have a lot of people eat feed a lot right now. That said, I fully support Yost's situation here of resurrecting this building into an event center. It is clearly an event center in conjunction with a farm use. That I think is a practical solution to the problem. Would I support building a Safeway store here? Probably not. That's clearly outside the parameters of a business in conjunction with a farm use. Right now we're in the middle of a big argument in the legislature over what to do about wineries. Should wineries be allowed to make sandwiches to serve with their wine, or is that a restaurant operation which would allow? I favor being able to do that for two reasons. Number one, I don't want people drinking wine and driving on our highways when they've had a few too many samples. And secondly, it gives us the opportunity to grow the wine industry. When people drive out here from Portland with a pocket full of money, they appreciate having something to eat along with wine tasting and everything else. And that's fine. Let's give them a package so that they'll come out here more often and drop more money in our county. So I think it's a matter of measured care as to whether or not we allow these things, but I think if we err on the side of common sense, it will be okay. I can tell the difference, and I just said this in the hearing a couple of weeks ago, between a winery that serves sandwiches on the weekends and a McDonald's that has a wine operation in the back room. I think that there's the kind of distinctions we need to look at. What is the primary operation going on EFU land, and what can we use to complement that for jobs and more income for the agricultural community? And this is an excellent example. I remember my father-in-law talking about this being a dance hall in the 30s and 40s, and I believe it was out this way. There was an enormous gravel parking lot where young men went to drink and all kinds of other things. Well, it's a field now. It wasn't a permanent parking lot for the rest of the world. It was a temporary issue. And I think we have to keep that in mind when we're looking at uses of EFU land. Which things permanently change the complexion, we can never go back, and which things augment the use of EFU property for more profitability for the owners and more jobs for the community.
Polk County is a resource county, and the commissioners in the past and the current commissioners all agree that we have to protect those resources. Dan touched on the Safe Harbor project, which is a new project, and it capitalizes a little bit more on the egg producers than the wineries. These are contentious issues. The most important thing I believe is that we all sit down and talk about it. There are some commercial farmers that don't want the events to happen on their land. We all need to talk about these things. We all need to figure out what the barriers are, get over those barriers, and make sure that everybody can benefit from producing when they produce crops on their farms. Right now, the Safe Harbor project is it's in its infancy. We've had one meeting on that. The egg producers have actually asked us to hold off on that until after harvest, so that they can be a part of the discussions for that. What it will allow them to do, one of the things that it will allow for our egg producers to do is to vertically expand. So if you grow cherries, rather than sending your cherries to some place to freeze them and then having somebody buy those cherries and then making a pie and then having somebody buy that pie and serve the pie, each one of those levels adds a cost. What the Safe Harbor will do would be to allow for the producer to grow the cherry, to freeze the cherry, to bake the pie, and to sell that pie on their land within certain restrictions, and that's the part that everybody in the community has to come together and discuss. We have timber in this county, we have egg in this county. Those are the things that drive the bus, and we all know that. We have to protect our egg land. We have to do that with responsible growth, and this Board of Commissioners has that in mind all of the time, and we're working on that. Craig Polk, it's an honor that Craig Polk has earned a seat on the ONC Board of Directors. That is not just a simple thing. That is, he's gained the respect of commissioners and leaders around the state of Oregon as well as the entire nation, and that seat is very valuable to protect our forest lands. And we all owe Commissioner Polk a thank you for all of the hard work that he's done to get himself on that board and to protect our forest lands and to give us a chance to get those forest lands back to local control and under the hands of our hands rather than the federal government. And Craig, I thank you for that. And we all honestly do owe him a big thank you for all the work that he's done. And this board is behind that 100%, and we've been behind that for decades now. We've worked on this, and we're not going to give up until the very last moment. And thank you.
So clearly Oregon needs more jobs. Our unemployment rate is above the national average. Our per capita income has seen a steady decline over the last 20 years. We are number one in the number of hungry children going to school. And we're number one in the number of people on food stamps. Clearly Oregon can do better, and Newt Buehler wants to make Oregon more friendly to business. Now there are two ways that directly pertain to this question that can help with that. The first is the Secretary of State is head of the corporation division. And, we have 11,000 pages of rules and regulations in Oregon. If you're a small business owner, trying to navigate something like that is just, it's way too complex. We have laws that we don't even know exist. For instance, one of the ones that we didn't know existed, and it hasn't been used, is a law to review our administrative rules. Each administrative rule is supposed to be reviewed every 5 years for unintended consequences, whether it's inhibiting job growth. We need to do that review, and Newt Bueller, as the head of our corporation division, will make sure that that law is upheld. So we can get these old regulations off the books and allow small businesses to prosper. The second thing the Secretary of State can do to really enhance job growth is it's one of 3 votes on the state land board. In addition to our federal forests, we have state forests. And they are controlled right now by the governor, the treasurer, and the Secretary of State. Newt Bueller, as the Secretary of State, who was born and raised in Roseburg, Oregon, now lives in Bend, will be a voice for rural Oregon. So we can get people working in our mills again. That needs to happen, and under Newt Bueller's watch it will.
The Office of Labor Commissioner is much like a judge, administrative, not legislative. Bruce Starr is in his 12th year in the Oregon State Legislature, serving Western Washington County. Western Washington County incorporates his father's farm that he grew up on, that his parents still live in, and Intel's headquarters. So he's got quite the diverse constituency that he's represented in the Oregon State Legislature in the legislation for years. He's running for statewide office to expand that constituency base. He wants to be able to serve more of Oregon. If you would have asked me a few years ago what the Labor Commissioner was, did, or what those words meant, I would not have been able to tell you. If I asked most of this room, I don't know. In the last few months, I've realized most people don't know what the office is. But it manages one of the duties that he will have is it manages the relationship between an employer and employee. Right now, Oregon is not a job-friendly state. As we've traveled the whole state, 8,000 miles last month on our rental car, we've realized from employers that the Bureau is not a facet of the government that they will pick up the phone, call, and ask a question to right now. That 11,000-page booklet, the Labor Commissioner is not someone they would reach out to and ask a question or advice, or if they think they might have gone awry somewhere and they need to fix it. It's not someone they're willing to work with right now. Bruce Starr wants to be a Labor Commissioner for the state of Oregon that reaches a hand out to those businesses and does not assume the role as a predatory one. The incumbent Labor Commissioner right now boasts the millions and millions and millions of dollars in fines he's handed out to business owners, and that's an accomplishment to him. Rather, Senator Bruce Starr would like to turn around that, bring some balance, still enforce the law, but do it in a way that makes Oregon a more business-friendly state and can work in cooperation with business owners.
So I'm Tom Cox, I'm running for state treasurer, and the question is about Polk County commissioners making the natural resource economy work better. Is that a fair assessment of the question? Well, fortunately, there's 2 things I can do. As Newt Bueller's representative just mentioned, Newt and I will sit on the state land board. We will be 2 of the 3 votes on the state land board. Now there's 740 square miles to this county. 12% of it's publicly owned. That's about 56,832 acres of publicly owned land. Some portion of that is inside the purview of the state land board. And right now, it is not producing jobs, not nearly the way it should. And I believe that the way the environmentalists have been allowed to stop the natural resource economy from functioning in this area is criminal. And here's what I can do as state treasurer.
by aggressively pushing for the most ecologically friendly harvesting on state-owned lands, we can push against the environmentalists, and once it's okay to do that on state lands, it will be okay to do it on private lands, and we'll break the, pardon me, log jam, preventing us from turning trees into jobs. That is a crucial thing to do. There's one other thing I will do as state treasurer, and that is reform PERS. PERS reform would put millions of dollars back into the budgets of the county, of your school district, of your cities. I've got the only detailed plan that anyone in office or seeking office has put forth. I've got a copy of it right here, 6 pages long. If you want to get my flyer from the back of the room, it has the website. You can download your own copy at thomasbcox.com. Have a look at that. The only way that we are going to prevent a self-destructive downward spiral of service cuts, layoffs, and ever-increasing PERS costs is to attack the problem directly. See, here's how we get people together in this country, is you have a common enemy. My parents informed me when I was 4 years old, I attacked the neighbor kid because he hit my brother. Now, apparently I said, only I can hit my brother. There's some sort of a lesson there. I'm working on it. We and our Democrat neighbors have a common enemy in the PERS shortfall and the negative impact of that PERS shortfall on all of us. The state workers don't like it, the retirees don't like it, none of us like it. And with this plan, we can, I can't live it now, we have that time. We can turn that around, put money back into the county budget, protect the taxpayer from endless PERS shortfalls moving forward, and give the workers and the retirees some safety. So, Tom Cox, thank you.
We could use some of that money right now at the county. Okay, Ray Godfrey, where you at? You've got the next question? We'll let you.
First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for the candidates being here tonight. And second of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for citizens being involved enough to come and learn about the candidate. But my question is simple on the surface, but it has major implications the way it's looked at. My question is, who owns the ring? That seems like a simple question, but there's a man in jail in Southern Oregon because he has ponds on his property and he collects rainwater, and the state is claiming ownership. So my question is, who owns the ring? Now, if you just look at Oregon policy, you may be able to argue one way or the other. But if you look at our national foundation law, as established in the Declaration of Independence under natural law, and the 10 Commandments that's, by the way, carved on the door of the U.S. Supreme Court, it's wrong to steal, and it's wrong to murder, and a number of other things that I won't get into. But philosophically, who owns the rein? And you that'll be our representatives in the state government will be making policy. And I have a suggestion as well as the question, is that only our representatives submit bills to the legislature and not agencies. So, who owns the rein?
You get to go first.
Well, Ray, I'm going to go to you again. I don't get that one. I don't get the answer because that calls for me to tell you what might happen in the case that you come before me, and I'm barred by judicial ethics from doing that. I'd love to chat about it, but I can't. So I'm going to pass this to somebody else.
You know, it's interesting sitting next to a judge because I just got my announcement being jury duty on November 5th. And my wife's also a lawyer, and she said, what are you going to do about that? I said, I'm including the judge. So, I know it's not Al Gore that owns the ring. I know that for a fact. Okay, I know that. He owns the internet, I think, or something, and Alan has to pay rent to it, I'm sure. So, this is crazy. Cap and trade. Who owns the air? And now they wanna broker the air, right? Now they want to broker the rain. They want to own the rain. I think God owns the rain. And I have to say that if my grandfather or my father were alive, they would just, I know what they'd say, but I can't repeat it. But I think that's just ridiculous. I mean, come on. If they own the rain and don't let it rain on my property because I don't want to pay anything for it. That's basically how I feel about it. This is where our government and the people representing us have got too much time on their hand to think that they can go ahead and start saying, find somebody or put somebody in jail because of rain or capturing rain. I mean, we've done that on ranches my whole life. And I think that's ridiculous to think that someone would have to go to jail because it rained on their property and they captured it. I mean, come on. This is insane. I really don't know how to answer that other than vote these people in that think that they own the ring. That's my feeling.
I agree with Fred that God owns the rain. It is not for the state to regulate. The state regulates too many things. And while we all grew up knowing that pollution was bad, knowing that water should return where water goes. We have a Willamette River. We have a beautiful Polk County here because of how we well manage water supplies. But that is not the state's job to tell a property owner that they're collecting too much rain. I'm just confused by it all, really. I don't understand it at all. I work in a company that makes and provides pervious concrete. Here's a plug. Evolution Paving. And we develop pervious concrete because the state and people want the rain to go where the rain goes, and into the ground or into the streams or into ponds for a variety of purposes. I learned to swim in swimming holes. Remember those days? That's where the rain should go, where it goes. And I don't think it's the state's job to regulate rain. We have a responsibility to be concerned about pollution, but runoff and all of these sustainable terms are not for us to regulate. I believe that when we look at regulating or finding somebody for collecting rain in ponds, isn't that really what we want rain to do? But it's not our job to figure that out. It's the business of the state, and nor should the county be in.
There are two things that those of us that look ahead know are going to take on extraordinary value no matter what the economic circumstances for the next 20, 30, 50 years. One is energy, and the other is water. We can't live without it. And the state is in the business of monitoring water rights, which are hard fought. It is a very complicated set of laws around who owns the water after it's fallen. Ray, and you know this. And every farmer knows exactly what his water rights are, and what they really want is for the rain to actually start. I know the weather's been beautiful, but this is an unnatural fall, and come next spring we're going to be saying, whew, we're glad it started raining because we need it. And Oregon is advantaged by our rain because it also produces energy in our dams. The Republican House, the Republican Senate, those of us who work on these things are marching up the hill again this session on the Columbia River water issue. Washington gets more than their share. There are ways to warehouse that water to save it in bad years or to use it for the right reasons. And continue to be working on this area because more water, particularly in the eastern part of the states, means more productivity, just like it does here. And we are getting our share out of a major river that's coming right through us. So we will continue to work on this. It isn't just the rain, it is the rain. But what happens when it hits the ground is of critical, it's of critical importance to our economic vitality. And if we can use our rain wisely, use our river resources wisely, we are well positioned. If we squander it or warehouse it for no darn good reason and say, well, we'll just leave all this land unproductive while we save the rain somewhere in somebody else's pond, we are making a big mistake. So that will be part of our agenda.
The simplistic, practical answer to your question is if the rain falls on your head and your property, you own it. That also, by the way, works for meteorites falling from outer space. But that's not the root of this problem. And once again, in this next session, we have two bills coming in, one that's a repeat and one that's new. One of them will tax water rights. Anyone holding water rights will have to pay an annual fee to the state of Oregon to maintain that water right. It raises revenue for the water agency, water resources. The other one is a redo of a bill that will require rural property owners to put a meter on their well and pay the state for water extracted from the ground, like city people pay for water coming through a water meter. Now I make the distinction, though, the city water, you're paying for the service of delivering the water to your home and maintaining the availability of that water. In rural cases, I buy the well, I pay for the upkeep of the well, I'm very thirsty and my well quits. It's a whole different issue. But in order for the state to proceed down this line of charging a fee for water withdrawn from the ground, they need to exert ownership over the water. Where did the water come from that they are taxing or charging a fee for coming out of the ground? It came from the rain. This came up several years ago when Oregon Rain, the bottled water company, got in trouble because they were collecting rainwater and filtering it for sale. Kind of a gimmick, but it worked. They made money doing it. The state moved in on them and said, hold it, we think we own the water because we want to cut of the profit. So it's nothing more than a way for government to intrude further into your life and charge you another kind of fee they haven't thought about. The water well bill I killed the session before last. It's coming back again, and I hope we'll kill it again. But government is on an ever changing quest to find different things to tax and put fees on to raise revenue to support government largesse. If it's not rainwater, it's something else. So back to your question, Ray, it's all about control in order to create a commodity that is clearly owned by the state, and therefore the state can charge fees over the different elements of it. Our answer is good water policy and production of more water capacity, not fighting over raindrops. And we've been very slow to develop a water policy that expands the amount of water available, while tremendous amounts of water. Craig has worked on for a number of years the Valsette's project to put a big impoundment in up there. The environmentalists have blocked it. That's what we need. We need more impoundments, more water catch basins, more water storage, and we wouldn't be having these stupid discussions other than the pure fee side of it. So it's bad water policy, and we're trying to figure out a way to make money on it.
And bad policies like that are why we want to be careful who we elect as our representatives, and we have to be very mindful right here. Polk County is not in the business of water or selling water, and we don't want to be in that business, but what we are in the business is making sure that our citizens have an adequate supply 30 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. And that's what we've been concentrating on. My short answer to you, Ray, is God owns the rain. I got to stick with that because that's... Not the property owner. Nope, God's got control of that one. But what Polk County has done is we have obtained water rights on the Willamette River, but that water right is dependent on stream flow. So at certain times of the month, we're not able to draw from that. right of refusal with the Campadere, and that will give us enough water to sustain ourselves during those summer months and we can draw enough for all of us. We are also still working on the project at Bell's. Very controversial, very controversial. The environmentalists are fighting every which way they can, but we can't not do it because it's controversial. The bottom line is we can't wait 30 years from now and have people turn the faucet on, there's no water, they say, what the heck were those commissioners thinking about back in 2012? That they didn't do this, they didn't do the research, and they didn't find and secure enough water to sustain us. So we are on that. I feel very fortunate to have someone like Jim Thompson and Vicki Berger fighting for us in the state capitol, and we got to make sure that for those reasons we keep them there.
You know, when I was a little kid, I used to stand in the rain and do one of those and try to catch it in my mouth. I guess I was breaking the law. Again, we're looking at overregulation and an improper use of our natural resources. As Secretary of State, Newt Bueller, and as the head of the Corporation Division, would look at those regulations and make sure that we get the ones that aren't warranted off the books. And then, as one of the 3 votes on the State Land Board, where you are in charge of waterways as well as a great